I want to bring in former Manhattan prosecutor Jeremy Saland. Let's take another look at the map showing the 14th Amendment challenges against Donald Trump. There are so many of them that we're looking at. You see the key colors there, and some of the decisions have obviously been made, but there are some more that are coming up. Oregon, I think, is coming up as well. You know, we've seen so many of these. Can you give us a sense of understanding these petitions, who filed them, what they intend to do with them, and of course there are Republicans in some of these states who have already challenged this, trying to get the Supreme Court to weigh in?
Well, we know now that there's at least 5 for free speech for people, which, as we just heard, was Oregon, which is the outstanding one that predates Illinois and Massachusetts, but they failed procedurally in Michigan, right, before and Minnesota, pardon me. So these are people that have some voters, and you try to get the spectrum across. It's not just Democrats. You have a Republican, you have an unaffiliated or unenrolled voter, to petition the court to say the things we've heard before, a little bit of Groundhog Day, a little bit of Bill Murray, right, of he is not fit because why? He is an officer, he was involved in an insurrection, and it's not up to Congress. The states can decide these.
And what's interesting about the 14th Amendment is it doesn't say the word convicted. It doesn't even say the word accused. Like it's interesting because it's a little bit, I don't know if nebulous. I should not be commenting on the Constitution, as I am not a constitutional lawyer. But this is something the Supreme Court, don't you think, is going to pick up? I mean, this is becoming an issue of voters' rights as well. As you look at this, if you say this person cannot be on a ballot, you are affecting a huge voting population.
I mean, there's some folks who will just say, listen, the voter should decide if they want that person or not. But this is a deeper issue, and I can't fathom a situation at this point in time where the Supreme Court does not step in and do something. It would be such a disservice. Now, it shouldn't be, as Trump's attorney was speaking before, that Kavanaugh, because Trump went to battle for him, that therefore he should vote and make a decision in his favor, but they have to render a decision on the merits. Is this Congress's choice? Is he an officer? Is this the process by which we follow to eventually say there was an insurrection? It has to happen.
I'm no lawyer, but I would be shocked if they said that he wasn't an officer. I mean, the President of the United States, an official, that would be a very interesting decision.
Well, you look at the strict language, and it doesn't say the president, but at the same time, when you look at these Supreme Court justices, many of whom are, we'll call them originalists or textualists, they're looking at the intent at the time. And is it reason to believe that the president would not be included post-Civil War? It would be any previous office holder who was engaged in an insurrection. So I think, practically speaking, and the intent would include that. But we'll see from the Supreme Court justices.
It could happen any moment that they pick up this case. And I'm just curious, lastly, if they pick the case up and you have all these pending cases, do those judges in those cases say, hold on a minute, let's see what the Supreme Court says here?
Well, all these things have to move forward, and they have to proceed.
Okay.
But at some point, it becomes sort of, well, I don't want to say waste of time, because that's belittling it. That's not what I'm saying.
Moot.
It becomes moot, correct, because they're going to have to render a decision from the Supreme Court and say, this is what we're doing, now we're going to follow. So they're still going to proceed and keep going until there is a decision, and an affirmative one way or another, by the judges of the Supreme Court.
Can I get some props for the moot? A little, little lawyer language.
That's good. That's very good. I'm impressed.
I also know what a vexatious litigant is, but we'll get into that later. That's my other small legal term. Never went to law school, but thank God you did, Jeremy. That's why we have you here today. Thank you so much for explaining all that.
My pleasure.
John.